Bonus content. All right, so I read a voracious amount. This is a book that Dan Kennedy, my mentor, recommended to me. It's called My Adventures with Your Money, George Graham Rice and the Golden Age of the Con Artist. There are some awesome marketing lessons in this. So it was written around it was back in the early 1900s, and George is broke in the 1900s. He has his last $7.50, and he likes to bet on the horses. And he and his friend are at the racetrack. And his friend gets a letter from a guy at another racetrack who works there. It's a tip about a horse. Sure thing. And he says, we should take our last $7.50 and bet it on this horse. And George says, well, then if we lose, I don't have anything. We should get lunch, and then at least I'll have some food. He said, well, then you'll be hungry again. We should go bet on the horse. And George says, wait a second. In the racing sheet, where it lists the horses and all the odds and stuff, on the other side of the magazine, there's an ad. And that ad is for someone advertising information about a race, a tipster. It's called a tout now, someone who sells you what to bet on. He says, why don't we do that? Do what? Let's start a betting company. I'll advertise that we know the inside information on this horse in this race. People have to pay to find out, and we'll have a business. And if he wins, we'll have a business. Well, wait, how are we going to pay for the ad? We only have $7.50. We need an office. We need a sign. We need all this stuff, and we only have $7. And he said, we'll figure it out. So he gets the ad in the newspaper on credit. He rents the office and gets them to throw in first month, last month, and security deposit will be paid later at the end of the lease. He gets a sign painter to paint the sign of the new company on the window on credit, and then they put the ad in the paper. The next day they come to the office and there's a line around the block of people who want to find out who's going to win, what the inside scoop is on this horse. So then he quickly says, we don't have any way to tell them. He takes the first few guys, paying them $5, takes their money, runs to a printer and says, here's the tip, print it up. And this is printing press, like not Control P. Like it takes a while to physically print this stuff. He prints up a couple hundred of them, he runs back, and he starts selling them, and they sell thousands of dollars worth at $5 a pop. The next day, the horse actually wins. And everybody comes back wanting to know what the next race is. So he starts a horse race betting firm out of $7.50. He grows it to the point where they end up moving to giant offices in like Park Avenue. Like it's this huge, largest betting company. Except he makes a mistake because the whole time that people were buying the information, he said he worked there. He didn't say he was the guy. He said he worked for the guy who had the tips. And then the big mystery is who's the guy providing these tips because they keep being right. And then he does something really smart. When they're wrong and they lose, he gives everybody their money back. So there's no risk. He didn't tell them he was going to refund. Hey, you lost me money. Normally it's just you're out of luck. He says, oh, I'll give you your money back. So now everybody likes him even more. But then they find out that he's the guy giving the tips, and his business tanks because there's no mystery anymore. Oh, that's just George. He can't possibly know anything about horses. He's been right 20 times in a row. Doesn't matter, it's George. It's all over now. So he has to leave, and he goes out west. And he goes to, a mining, this is before the gold rush. And he goes out west, and he starts he buys a tiny little mine. It doesn't really have any gold in it. But he's been writing newspaper ads for years, selling people his horse betting tips. So he writes an ad about mining. You should invest in this gold mining company, and raises millions of dollars of Eastern investors sending money going, I want to get in on this. So he starts a mining promoting company where all of the mines hire him to promote his company, to get investors, to capitalize the company. And he does this for a very, very long period of time until it gets to the point where this tiny little mining camp that had like 200 people in it is now a city of 15,000. And the stock market valuations of the mines are $150 million in 1907. And they haven't dug any gold out of the ground yet, and they're worth $150 million because of the hype for the stocks. But then when they find out there's not so much gold in them, their hills, everything collapses. and the National Guard is called in because there's riots, and he loses everything, and that's where I am in the book at the moment. So I thought what was fascinating was obviously willing to saying, hey, instead of betting on the horse, I'm going to start a firm that tells you what to bet on. And then he markets it, and it works really well. He gave people money back when they lost, which brought him credibility. I thought what was really interesting was nobody wanted to buy his tips once they knew who he was the tipper. So there's got to be some mystery involved in your marketing. Roy Williams, another one of my mentors, says what you leave out is more important than what you put in. Which he is the author of one of my favorite books, How to Be Like Amazon. So easy, even a lemonade stand can do it. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 new people here. Who wants a copy? Oh, all right. I think you were first. It is also autographed by the authors. I didn't bring a second one because I didn't know how many people were coming. So since you came in second, I've got How to Get Super Rich, the Millionaire Booklet from Grant Cardone, who's another one of our gurus. It is. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is highlights from the Dan Kennedy marketing letter that we get every month. There were a couple things in this month that I really thought were really important. Customers are more likely to stay with you longer if you are perceived by them to be a specialist. Diamond member James Lang has a marvelously successful financial advisor practice. As its jet fuel, he niched by affinity to college professors. His mom was a professor, her brother was a professor, and he had somewhat randomly acquired 100 college professors as clients when he decided to focus. He started with a sales letter to a list of area college professors, telling of his family connections and demonstrating he spoke college professor language and a familiarity with a few of their specific issues like sabbatical tax subsidies. The first mailing he sent cost $5,000 in printing and postage. It produced $75,000 in front-end fees. Anybody want to do the math on what the ROI is? It's 1,500%. Not counting their lifetime value as tax press customers, wealth management clients, or the referrals that grew those 200 clients to 800. And the average retention of those clients was 20 years. So 75,000 times 20 is 1.5 million off of a $5,000 letter. So how can you specialize? The more you specialize, the more you can charge for your services. Would you rather have your brain surgery done by your general practitioner or a board-certified neurosurgeon who had done 1,000 of them that year? Who makes more money, the brain surgeon or the GP? Because of the specialty. This I thought was amusing. Oregon has halted processing of new applications for legal marijuana businesses because the industry is growing too big too fast. The state has a glut of 1 million pounds of weed that is unsold. That is a quarter pound for every man, woman, child, parrot, and pet. The state's labor department warns that Oregon now has hardly any job applicants who can pass a drug test. Thanks to the massive oversupply, its effect on prices, and the broad increase in drug usage. So the easy answer would be to get drug tests out of the way, unless you care if the guy flying your plane, fixing your food in the kitchen, or fixing your brakes on your car is high. So,
Kevin and I are going to take a road trip.
You will be tripping for sure. Tripping. All right.
My son is a friend who
Have you guys ever been to Oregon? You have been to Oregon?
grow marijuana.
So, you know how we
And
have
having
CBS
this legal
right
marijuana
here?
has had the shit out of it.
You know, it's really interesting that you mentioned that. We have...
Knocked the hell out of his business.
You know, like urgent care, they're all over the place.
I was talking to one of the fathers of the kids on Max's old soccer team when we had our end of the season party. And turns out he owns a taxi company. And I said, how has Uber affected your business? He said, oh, it's decimated it. He said, if we didn't have medical contracts and taking people to their doctor's appointments, in corporate regular contracts, we'd be out of business. He said, our drivers used to be busy all night long, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, going back and forth to Chippewa, going downtown, completely gone. Because why would you take a cab if you can just Uber for less than half the price? So it is an interesting world we live in.